This is John Paul Rai. I'm coming from Tokyo, Japan, and some people call me. Today, I'm going to react to a clip by Freddie Prinze Jr., and I haven't seen the whole thing. I watched parts of it, and it appears he goes off on Star Wars fans who don't like the sequel trilogy because he's saying something like he knows best, and we don't know what the Force is, and it's really not that bad, and if we knew what the Force was the way George Lucas really intended it, then we should like the sequel trilogy. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Let's see his clip. Okay, so here we go. By the way, I'm going to give a big shout out to my buddy Rob at Everything Star Wars, because he's the one who clipped this out, and he'll be linked below, but let's get into it.
Get hate from Star Wars fans when I'm like, look, dog, you're just mad the franchise isn't aging with you.
Right.
But that ain't how it works. The first one was for fucking kids.
Right. Yep.
The second three were for different fucking kids. And this one is for kids. You just pissed off that Han Solo gave the fucking Millennium Falcon to a girl.
Yeah.
That's it. Because Luke Skywalker's Cinderella. Or Sleeping Beauty, okay? He can talk to things that don't speak English and understands what they're fucking saying. He gets a fairy godfather instead of a fairy godmother who teaches him how to be the best Jedi in the world in no time fucking flat. And everybody, like, I know more about the Force than most people because Dave Filoni taught me and George Lucas taught him. And all these video games have fucked people up on what the Force is. Like, Luke's skill doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses. Right. The Emperor doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses. The Force dictates who wins or loses based on balance. And here's the quick version on how to explain it to all these people who fucking think they get to decide. In the first if you want to do this like time-wise, Palpatine, you would say, and Yoda are the smartest two. Palpatine clearly smarter because Yoda was blind to the power of the dark side and the seduction of Anakin. So let's talk about the seduction of Anakin fucking Skywalker for a second. If the Emperor is the smartest dude in the universe and knows that the Force dictates this, if he kills who he sees as a rival, Anakin, then he knows the Force is just going to fucking correct that because the Emperor knows this. These are George Lucas's words, not mine, so fuck you if you disagree with me. Straight up, this is information, not affirmation time. Straight up, man. So the Emperor knows that. So instead of killing Anakin, what does he do? He seduces Anakin to double the strength of the dark side. So then what does the Force do?
Balance.
It balances us. How? It gives us twins, Luke and Leia, 2 and fucking 2. Balance. And if you look at the movie through just that simple perspective, you will not only know why every single bad guy loses and every single good guy loses, you'll know who's going to win and lose in the next fucking movies. I can tell you, I just don't want to wreck it. People bitch about the dumbest shit like it's archetype characters. This is George Lucas's words. There is no Jack Bauer in Star Wars. That character doesn't exist. It's not Han Solo. Han Solo's a reluctant hero, okay? He's a reluctant hero. That's the archetype. Darth Maul, who everybody wants to win, and he's everyone's favorite because he looks sick and he's great in the video games.
Does look cool.
Fuck you guys. He's Sisyphus. He is born to fail. Learn your Greek mythology like, I don't know, George fucking Lucas did. He's cursed to roll a boulder up the hill only to have it roll to the bottom again every single time for eternity. That is Darth Maul's quest. He's in on the joke, you guys. He knows it. He's just cursed to live that life. Again, not my opinion, George Lucas's. So go fuck yourself if you disagree. You don't get to level up in the Star Wars world. That's a fucking video game. There's no such thing as a gray Jedi. Qui-Gon even says, I turn towards the light because it's there. There's no gray. That's pretend fan fiction shit, which is cool, but don't try to canonize it because it doesn't work. And I'm never going to buy it. Ever. Star Wars is for fucking kids.
Okay, so Freddie makes a few okay points about the Force and balance, and I'm sure that was what Lucas intended since he heard it indirectly from Lucas. But those aren't the parts I have a problem with Freddie saying. The main thing I take issue with Freddie saying is first, Star Wars is for kids, which I disagree, and if you think Star Wars is for kids, I disagree too. Well, maybe the prequels did end up being for kids actually, and that's one of the things that turned us off. The thing about Star Wars that makes it amazing, as far as the original trilogy, is it's the perfect balance for kids and adults to enjoy. Now here's the thing, you don't hear people say that much, and I don't know why. You know, this is when I wish this channel was a little bit bigger, so I could get a little bit more, like, traction with these ideas. That's what it is. The answer is this. Star Wars is made perfectly for adults and for kids, and that's what makes it great. Okay, so You have someone's arm get cut off. You have Han shoot someone in the face. You have Luke's hand get cut off. You have Leia in a very skimpy outfit. You know, I could go on with these things. I'm sure you guys can help me with details. But the point is, in the original Star Wars, in the original trilogy, there was plenty of stuff that was very adult-themed. And, you know, like I said, perfectly made for adults and kids. Okay, next, point number 2. There's not many people who are actually disliking the sequels because of video games. I don't play Star Wars video games. I have 10 years ago, 15 years ago maybe, like the very original Knights of the Old Republic, and that's really not the reason fans are triggered about Star Wars, you know? So the thing he said about balance was where Luke doesn't dictate the fight, Vader doesn't dictate the fight, things like this, or maybe the Emperor. I don't know. And here's the thing, I'm going to say something. Even if George Lucas himself said certain things, it doesn't necessarily matter, and here's why. When you write a book or a novel, or you put out a story, it's going to be interpreted by millions of people, you know, when it gets to the level of Star Wars, and people may find things in there that make more sense than usually intended. Kind of like Game of Thrones, I'm sure people are finding all kind of things that George Martin didn't necessarily intend. So, whether George Lucas intended on certain things to happen or not, you have to judge on the final product of what's represented in the movies, if you guys follow. So, if in the movies the Force appears to be like that, maybe it is, that's what he intended. But in the final product of the movies, if you can interpret it in a different way, then it doesn't necessarily matter what George Lucas says it was supposed to be. I know, it's a little bit complex, and I think some people might disagree with that and kind of misinterpret my words, but what I'm saying is, like, the producer and the final product, or the creator and the final product, are two different things. Alright? John Lennon's songs are a good example. I'm a pretty big Beatles fan. They have, like, the world record for studio time, and they've got a mountain of songs. Now, John Lennon intended certain things for certain songs. He's the writer. But, some songs got taken by millions of people to mean all different things. So even John himself, who intended them to mean certain things, can't quite control the meaning that took place in the world. That's the best I could explain it. So I'm saying, you know, Freddie Prinze, I gotcha, you heard it from Lucas, but that doesn't even necessarily matter when you think about it critically.
Then he knows the Force is just going to fucking correct that, because the Emperor knows this. These are George Lucas's words, not mine, so fuck you if you disagree with me. Straight up, this is information, not affirmation.
Alright, so, here's the thing. So even if George Lucas did say that the Emperor knows certain things are going to happen, I'm not sure that's necessarily laid out in the movies as he intended, because if the Emperor and Yoda knew it would happen, then their actions would be dictated in a way where they'd expect that outcome. And it seemed to me that they didn't quite expect each outcome as what was going to happen, okay? Now, maybe Freddie's right. I'm sure he heard through Filoni or something, and Lucas said this. And we don't know exactly what Lucas said, by the way. Lucas might have explained it in some complex way, and this is how Freddie's interpreting it. But my point is, it seems like when Luke went in front of the Emperor didn't necessarily know what was going to happen. He probably thought he could turn Luke, or he just didn't know the outcome. Same thing with Yoda when Yoda did certain things. I mean, if I read Freddie correctly, he's saying these characters knew the outcome, so they did certain things, but when you watch the movie, it really doesn't seem like these characters knew the outcome. That's why I'm saying, even if George intended that, that's not how it looks. And how it looks, as far as the final product, is also how it could be judged, not necessarily what the writer intended. That's just how it is. So I guess Freddie's saying fuck me if I think I'm right, but that's just a fact of fiction, Freddie, is sometimes your creation gets larger than you. Like I said about John Lennon, his creation got larger than he was. George Lucas's creation got larger than he was. So, you know, what George says goes, but what he says also has to match what happens in the movies, and he has to make sense of that through the movies, because that's what 95% or 90% of the audience is presented to. I also want to say this about Freddie, is that he said it was out-of-shape white dudes who were hating on Star Wars. So this is the reason I'm a little bit snippy with him. You know, there's no reason to say white dudes, especially if you're a white dude. out of shape has absolutely nothing to do with Star Wars. You know, if I said, Freddie, I'm going to drop you off a cliff unless you write 500 words about how being out of shape connects to liking or disliking Star Wars, and there's nothing he could say. He'd be like, I just said out of shape, you know. Alright, white dudes, you have a small argument with white dudes. In the 80s, America was predominantly white, although Star Wars was worldwide. I think it was like, you know, mostly in America was a major release and how it got famous. And at that time, the country was like 85% white. So logically, yes, it's a lot of white dudes at first who started to like Star Wars. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's just kind of how logic dictates it. That's why all these SJWs and people like Freddie and shills and shit are saying white dudes, white dudes, white dudes. Yeah, no shit. The fucking country was like 85% white when Star Wars was released in 1977. So of course mostly white dudes saw it. So, yeah, you're just attacking what the population was at that time. And it's kind of sickening, because any movie that came out in 77, 78, 79, or up to like 85 or whatever was, yeah, mostly liked by white dudes, because, you know why? It was a white dude country at the time. Now if a movie comes out, it's a little bit different. But, you know, they're kind of taking advantage of the history to use it as an excuse to say white dude, white dude, white dude, and that's what I don't like. Just don't say white dude. Just say, you know, out of shape dude, nerd, basement dweller, troll, okay, whatever. Just keep skin color out of it, or I gotta say this, and I gotta say you guys just suck and you shouldn't be in the media. You should just, I don't know, just disappear. Your opinion's nothing. If you're gonna say white dude, out of shape, troll, this, your opinion's absolutely nothing. Anyway, I'm doing shoutouts, special thanks. I don't usually give the finger, but I'm not sure that'll get me demonetized. It won't, but saying fuck will, but fuck it. Anyway, smash that subscribe button. I'm doing shoutouts, special thanks, things like that. Shout out to Rob from Everything Star Wars. Thank you very much. See you next time.